Are we live? Oh, we're live. All right. Exciting stuff. All right. Well, we'll give a few moments for everybody to jump on. What's the weather like there? Are you in Houston or are you down?
I'm in Houston right now. It is humid. I was so hot this morning, and it's because the humidity. I'm like, that's what it's supposed to be outside here, not inside. I'm like, that's why it was only 67 in here, but the humidity is like 80 something. Like, that's just not right.
Yep. All right. So we'll give a few minutes, but let's start talking at least about attention. So you had a great broadcast. Unfortunately, I missed it. So anybody else that missed it, it was on what? It was on dyslexia, right? And reading?
Yeah, we touched on dyslexia, but it was about growing social emotional skills through literacy. A lot of really fun and cool activities to do during this downtime, or really anytime.
Awesome. Okay. And so that was on your Mansfield page? All your pages?
It's all the pages, yes.
Okay, awesome.
And on yours.
And on mine, yes. So I did get to check it out a little bit. So make sure that you check it out on one of those pages. But I'm assuming when a kiddo is struggling to read, or since we're talking a little bit about attention, is attention playing a role in that at all, or is this what's going on there?
Big time. Attention. I mean, there are so many things. Yeah, I used to think attention was my issue with literacy, but it was visual perception when I was a little girl. But yes, you have to be able to sustain attention. You have to be able to tune out distractions to read. It takes so much self-regulation, so many things you don't think about. Flexible thinking, you have to take on the author's point of view. You have to take on the character's point of view. Yep. And, the harder those types of challenges are for kids, a lot of kids who have attention issues sometimes struggle with a little bit of emotional regulation, so they may not understand the deeper nuances of what they're reading. And if I don't understand it, it makes it even harder to attend. It's kind of a vicious cycle. These kids who are so smart, and it's just like, what is going on? But yeah, attention is huge. Selective, divided. There are so many types of attention. It's not just about sustaining it.
Awesome. Right.
Literacy is one of the hardest. Writing is one of the hardest things kids have to do in school. What was I writing about again? The big picture, knowing where the details fit in, and all. Just so many things. Working memory, self-regulation, visual perception, auditory. Everything comes into play in writing. It's probably, especially for kids, the older they get, one of the hardest things they have to do.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So, you put on a fantastic presentation, so thank you for doing that. There are a couple people watching. Hey, what's going on, Dr. Barone? I appreciate you jumping on and commenting. Ask us questions. We want questions. So, yeah, that's why we're here.
It's fun when it's interactive, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's supposed to be interactive. We closed down the practice for 2 weeks just for precautionary, because we do have some kiddos who are maybe higher risk, so we want to make sure that we're keeping them safe. So I'm here for you all. So whatever y'all need, ask questions, please do. But Heather's talking about attention and reading, and so she's diving into that. Can you give us a little bit, as questions may come in, give us a little bit about that? Like, what were some suggestions you gave, or how could you help?
One of the easiest things people can do is go to freespirit.com and buy books. Okay. I know I bring them up all the time, and people must think she gets a commission, but they're just fantastic. I am not associated with them whatsoever. Publishers Weekly sometimes puts out their picks for books, and it wouldn't surprise me if that list right now has one about a situation like we're facing now. But the reason I like Free Spirit books, not only are the books themselves fantastic, and they even have a new one about worry that just came out, and it's bilingual, but they have activities listed that grow social emotional skills at the same time. For all these moms and dads who are out there, I'm not a homeschooler, I don't know how to do this stuff. They do some of the work for you. And of course, they can reach out to me as well, and I can really customize some options for you to give structure and kind of fill in some developmental gaps during this downtime, and kind of try to turn this not so fun period of time into somewhat of a blessing, at least in some ways. But awesome. So I was talking about the way you go about that and how you grow predictive skills with that. Yes. Because you and I have talked so much about how prediction, if I don't know what's going to happen next, it often causes anxiety. And since we're talking about attention today, depending on which estimates you look at, anywhere between on the low end 30 and as many as 50% of people who have attention issues also have some form of anxiety or emotional dysregulation. So they just really go hand in hand. But it's pretty thorough. It's I kind of talked about the things that get in the way of literacy, and then I also had things in there for, hey, my kid's a rock star. We just need to know what to do right now. So I had things in there for the little ones all the way through high school, and how you bringing in background knowledge is one of the best things you can do for literacy too. And
I love that.
Yeah, these kids that have sensory motor challenges have different memories. They can't encode them the same way. They don't have the same background knowledge to pull in, like we've talked about before. So have you done anything cool with your kids during this time at home?
We're just trying to keep them moving at this point in time. See, Chet's 3.5, Tinsley's 2. We're trying to we're giving them Play-Doh and just anything we can get to build. Thankfully, we're keeping them so busy that screen time is not an issue. And so,
good.
Right. So sometimes that can be an issue because they oftentimes are in the office with us. So sometimes they get a little bored. But as of right now, they are building project. One of the favorite things to do, by the way. So if you have a young one, they love face paint. Like we got Spider-Man and Elsa running around, freezing and shooting spider webs everywhere. So that's I can't draw. So their aunt did it for them. So it was great.
Yeah, no, everybody says, oh, anybody can learn to draw. And I don't want to say I can't, because we talk about growth mindset all the time, but I would love someone to see my stick figure person and still tell me that I can.
Yeah.
No, so that's awesome.
Yeah. So are reading books going to disappear with technology in 10 years? That's an interesting question. So let me ask you, do you find that the kiddos that you work with their developmental disorders, do they have a preference for auditory over visual as far as consuming information?
Oftentimes they have a preference for auditory. But one really good thing to keep in mind on that, and I even addressed it from a different stance, that's a fantastic question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. I encouraged people to not only read the stories to their children, but also have them read themselves, because it works the brain in a completely different way. They are extremely interrelated. But we've had so many families come in and say, I thought my child's comprehension was so good. And then I realized that it's only when I read it to them, when they read it to themselves, they don't get it. And so if I'm hearing you tell me a story, that's language comprehension, which is tied to reading. It's auditory processing, which is also tied to reading. It's foundational for reading. However, if that's all I ever do, I'm not using my visual perception. I'm using different types of attention, and I'm not having to understand words in text. So
that's so fantastic. So when you look at developmentally, right? So we have primitive reflexes, and then we have motor and touch. So as we're going up the hierarchy of brain development, and then you have auditory and verbal, and then ocular, eye. And so for a lot of kids, because the eye system is such a powerful sensory system, if it's not properly integrated, or if there's a roadblock lower in the developmental development, then you're going to have issues with reading, right? And so that's awesome.
Yes. And so we encourage families to do both. And, audiobooks are fantastic in the car, and you can have them on the speakers where everybody's listening, and you're doing dialogic reading where you get to pause. And when kids are having trouble doing this, you pause and you're teaching them how to think about a story. I wonder why the frog did that. What you're doing is you're showing them that those are the types of things that they're going to start thinking as they develop. You're teaching them how to think about a book, but have your kids generate questions about the book too. Or of course they can have headphones in. Some families might be like, I've heard this story 1,000 times. I'm not feeling it right now. And then they could put in headphones and do audiobooks, but that's for the best times to do that is for travel or, any time where, man, I got 10,000 things to do. It's so much better to do an audiobook than screen time in general. But there's a place for them for sure. But we don't want to replace audiobooks with parents reading with their kids, because it makes it, we are human beings who need engagement, even the kids who have trouble with emotional quotient and connection. We need that. I mean, some people are going stir crazy right now. They're super social and they've been home a few days and we're built for relationships. And you're also modeling how you value reading. So nothing takes the place of that reading time as a family or one-on-one with your child. And by the way, I looked at, there's no way I can say the whole name of this and everybody'd fall asleep, but it's the International Association for something about education. It was on one of my slides and I'm like, I'm out of breath. But they looked at the top things that impact proficient reading. Because only 34 to 35% of kids in 4th, 8th, and 12th grades, which also means in between there, are proficient readers. And what are the factors that account for that? So I listed the ones that directly relate with parents and children. And to me, that's really empowering. It's wow, I really have the power to help this. The top 2 had to do with parent involvement in the child's reading. I mean, that's amazing, and how many resources they had available, how many books they had available to them. And so if you've been home and you're not sick, you've got a neighbor that's not sick, even if you don't want to, social distancing, put books outside the front door for each other. And you could even trade out books. So that's something that you could do right now since we can't go to the library. But there were many ones had to do with parents. And so, which I think is a really good indicator. It wasn't even intended for scolding. It's like, hey, look how it's the power of parents, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. Do they have anything on reading a book for something tangible versus, say, like a screen book? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. We talk about getting sensory motor input all the time. Doing a screen, you're losing a lot of tactile, proprioceptive, even the fine motor to turn the pages. Fine foundational for development. You have to grasp the page and turn it, and you're feeling it. Fine motor it creates attention. You have to attend to how you're forming the letters and spacing them and so forth. It's self-regulation. It is very foundational for reading. So you're just and of course they also have the books very specifically that are the smelly books or, scratch and sniff books, whatever they're called. And the tactile ones that have different kinds of fabrics, different, fuzzy and smooth and like sandpapery. And, with tactile, not only is our sensory motor system helping us grow a sense of self. Think about how that impacts language development, and reading is a language skill. If I don't understand hard, soft, rough, smooth, sticky, whatever, or if I have an aversion to it and I'm not exposed to it, I may have a bunch of nouns and verbs. Even my sentence structure is delayed rather than understanding adjectives and adverbs and all of those abstract concepts. So a very direct impact on language and literacy there too.
Very neat. Okay.
Oh,
what do you think about? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. We had a question. What do you think about speed reading? But you answer your question, and then we'll go on to this. I have an answer for him, but go ahead.
Go for it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say with speed reading, basically what you're doing is you're taking you're basically just skipping over because you understand the general concept. Because I've taken some speed reading courses, and you have to be it's very 30,000 foot view, in my opinion. So you have to already understand the big concept. And I don't think kids typically with neurodevelopmental disorders have the ability to see the big picture and take chunks from it. So I think for those who are maybe who are, that's a good possibility. But for those who are struggling, I would absolutely not. I'd avoid it at all costs. All right. What were you going to say? Or please feel free to. Can you see the comments as well or no?
No, I can't. But even if they were showing on my screen, blind, I got I don't see well anyway. I did one yesterday, and somebody passed me a note like it was urgent, and I look like I'm frowning. I was trying to squint, like will myself be able to see what they wrote me. That's great. No, I agree with what you said. There's a time and a place for there's always a place for skilled reading. There is a place for speed reading. I sometimes do it, when I'm reading research, doctoral programs, speed reading came in really handy. I wanted to know, does this fit into my research question, that kind of thing. But yes, for kids growing up, if they're in high school and they are having absolutely no issues and you're trying to get them ready for college, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me if you want to, I think there's a time and a place that's so individual specific. But in general, kids are having difficulty. Most of the kids we see, almost every child who comes in, even if it's not what brought them in, has some issues with visual perception and processing. We spend so much time on that because that's a very personal thing for me, since I was legally blind and then had issues with that. But that has a lot to do with issues with the eye movements. And of course, speed reading could kind of mess with that when we're trying to get their eye tracking in place, to be very specific about it. But just in general, we're trying to get synchronization, neuroplasticity, grow new neural pathways so that they can get the big picture and the details, like you said. And they would probably have a little bit of difficulty doing that. And we're also, a lot of them are impulsive. A lot of the kids who have attention issues are also impulsive. And we're trying to get them to slow down, not speed up through the reading. And I talked about fix-up strategies the other day when comprehension breaks down, and kids who don't have a brake pedal don't realize when it broke down. That takes self-regulation to do that. It takes a lot of executive function to slow down and, hey, think about through what that word means. Think about what you just read. Do you understand it or not? And just many, many different strategies. And we might be adding a turbocharge to their impulsivity, by having them do it, even though they are so smart.
Right. Absolutely. Boy, I've got a couple questions about the same guy here. All right. He asks, do you think ADD is a gift? He says some call it a gift. So just kind of curious what our thoughts are on that. I'm assuming ADD, ADHD, any of those diagnoses.
I do. I think dyslexia is a gift in a lot of ways. It's a superpower. ADD, ADHD come with some amazing gifts. I mean, because a lot of, inventive, creative, smart, so many things, energetic. That impulsivity and driving parents crazy at one point is also the adult who doesn't get tired when other people do. But I want to be careful to caution people to if you love someone who has ADHD, I do believe it's a gift, but it's also important to be sensitive to the real struggles that can be invisible. Like, why can't you just listen to what I am saying and do it? The gift does not change the fact that there are struggles that can even cause problems in relationships, not only in work and school. So I think with most things, I mean, we all have a set of strengths and weaknesses, and it's much more about trying to help people not live in a compensation mode so that they can be the best version of themselves and thrive. What do you say?
No, I like that. Yeah. So ultimately what we want for you and I, what we're striving for with these kiddos is trying to help them adapt and not to compensate, but to adapt to stresses. And so I think that ADHD ultimately, when the individual is able to, I'll say, harness it, or is able to understand what their limits are and take control of that, then I think that it can be used as an immense skill set, because some of them, when they are passionate about something, I've never seen somebody, and not obsessed, don't get me wrong, not obsessed, but they're passionate about a topic. They can dive into a topic further than most anybody can. And so he commented also, Dr. Barone commented that the JetBlue owner said he would not have been able to start airlines if he didn't have ADHD. So, I mean, I agree. I think there's definitely some harnessing power there. We're still interrupting each other just a hair, but we're good. But it can be used for good, or it could be evil, I guess, if you want to take the superhero way of it. But it certainly, there are some gifts to it, and absolutely. But I've also seen the opposite, when a kiddo doesn't know how to harness it or understand it, or more importantly, one of my big goals as of recently is helping parents understand what that kiddo is going through, because when the parent understands, then they can convey to the kiddo, or they can communicate, and it seems to create much more harmony within the family. And I think that's when the kiddo really starts taking off, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I so agree with that. And I think it's also important to note that in recent years, ADHD has been classified as a subset of executive function disorder. Mm-hmm. So some kids have issues with attention, and the other things aren't that bad. I mean, maybe a little bit of impulsivity, that kind of thing. Whereas others may have difficulty. Not all kids with ADHD, believe it or not, have organization. Yeah. They don't have the entire rainbow of challenges that you can find on any list of ADHD symptoms. And so that's why a lot of families have come to us saying that we got them on medicine. We've talked about that before, but it didn't help that much. Well, because it only addresses one or two of those symptoms, and not that for the ones who have so many more of those things.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
to mention the side effects. Yeah,
absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Hey, was it Dr. Bryan who asked that question? Or
it was him that, yes, Dr. Bryan did, yes.
And so if he has any more comments on that, that'd be cool too.
Maybe he'll chime in. I'm not sure. That we have a couple people watching. So if you're watching, please ask us a question. Dr. Bryan had some very good questions. We really do appreciate those. Well, we talked about quite a bit here. So we're already 21 minutes in. Seems like we just started. Is there anything you want to talk about or mention? Anything come to mind?
I'm curious what kinds of questions you get about attention, distractibility, ADHD. Because like you mentioned, and I am on the same page with you about educating parents as well as educators, beyond just sort of the stock answer, one pager on ADHD or attention issues. What kinds of questions do you get? It'd be kind of fun to compare notes, and maybe we can address a few of those.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I literally just saw a white squirrel. I promise.
White?
I'm not. Yeah, white squirrel. I'm not chasing squirrels. It was a squirrel moment, but it was a white squirrel. So, yeah, literally white. Okay. I should have taken a picture so y'all believe me. Nobody's like, there's no white squirrel. So I think some of the most common things I get are, is this normal? Is this normal for this diagnosis? Is this, they use the word curable, or is this correctable? That's pretty common. What can I do to help? And then, will my child still struggle academically, or the things that we could do academically? So those are probably the most common ones. I feel like most parents are coming with, they're looking for a solution to a problem. So most already have an idea of what's going on, as far as what they're seeing, but they're looking for, like, is this curable? Are they stuck like this? Will this lead into another diagnosis? That seems to be a big one too. Like, will this eventually turn into something else, manifest itself into something else? So how about you? What have you heard, or, what questions are you getting?
A lot of the same ones. But another one besides that is them thinking, it's not necessarily a question, but it's kind of an assumption sometimes they come in with, and I get it. It's a matter of choice. They're just being defiant. Because if they really want to pay attention, man, he can play video games for 10 hours, but if it's something he doesn't want to do, he can't do it for 10 minutes. And so, what they are describing is absolutely what it looks like. I mean, I get it. My boy, but what they have no way of knowing until they talk to us is that kids with ADHD, their brains are wired for intrinsic motivation. And so kids with ADHD need things where they can grow autonomy, competence, purpose. It needs to be interesting, novel. It needs to align with their sense of self. They are not choosing that. If we are naturally drawn to things usually that are more organic for us, and if I'm doing something that I'm sort of naturally good at, I'm breezing through it. I can walk all day long. I never get tired if I go for a walk. But if I'm going to jog and run, this thing is harder. And I have to pay attention to harder because this is really boring to me. They're churning and they're going to run out of steam faster. And then the other thing with video games, that is not the same type of attention that you need for school and life. It's short bursts of attention that can spread out over hours with a lot of artificial reinforces, ding, 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 the points and go to the next level. That's not what in school, you don't have a bouquet of balloons delivered to you for paying attention in class for a few minutes, And so
another part then.
Yes. So those video games often decrease. They mess with your executive functions. They mess with your self-regulation. It releases dopamine in your brain. That's why some people call screen time a digital drug, because it releases feel-good chemicals, and then it increases impulsivity and sometimes emotional dysregulation and so forth. So I'm not 100% anti-screen time, like zero ever, unless they're birth through 18 months or maybe even 24 if you want to be a little side for brain development. But it needs to be limited, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, just the stimulus alone from visual. So from a visual standpoint too, because we were talking about reading. So like when you read, you're interpreting and you're organizing the letters, right, to make sense of it, which is important. But also you're envisioning, you're taking those words and putting context to them versus, say, when they're in front of a screen, they don't have to do any of that because there's no imagination. It just, it's there, right? And so you're stealing that from that process essentially. So
that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in part, like that's what I'm saying too, like with attention, right? So it takes you a second to comprehend that all and then imagine that scenario versus with the video, right? Or the video game. It's just there. It's just, there's no imagination. You're rewarded within a few moments and it's done, sort of deal. And so that's very important that, like you mentioned, that I agree. Absolutely. The reward system. Okay. All right. Sorry. My dog is trying to get in. There's a white squirrel. I think I might have ADHD right now. Okay. So I apologize. All right. There are 9 of you watching. One of you has a question. So we're waiting. I'm going to wait for a question. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be on attention. It could be on anything. Reading. It could be on whatever you like, but we like some questions. So, all right.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you if you had anything coming out. So I know you have a book coming out, and I have to give you some testimonials there coming, I promise. But what else do you have going on there? Do you have any other Facebook Lives that you're going to be doing? Or obviously we're going to do this again next week.
Yes.
But as far as with other people, do you have anything going
on? Y'all can check out my pages. I did one yesterday that was really good. In fact, DFW Child reached out about it. So and awesome. I'm going to make sure they know about the ones we're doing. I think my plan is, pardon me?
The DFW Child magazine. I think it's DFW. Yeah, that's what
it
is. Right?
They emailed me today right before we got on and said, let me know what y'all are doing so we can make it available to all of our kids. And I haven't had time to email her back because we were right in the middle of getting on. But I think what my plan is to do sort of a webinar once a week. And I invite any families where it's just me on the webinar on topics with slides for you to look at that I could then email to you or give you resources based on that topic. And that's the other thing. If anybody has to hear about anything about development, social, emotional, behavioral, academic, executive function, getting ready for life skills, anything, or you want things to do at home, like let us know what you want us to talk about. Let me know what you would like a webinar on. But I am also about to do one with Albert Wright. He is kind of a celebrity in early childhood education. When he goes to events, it's funny because he's my friend and I don't ask for my picture with him, or, you know, he's like everybody wants his picture and autograph. He's such an amazing person. But we're going to be doing one. I'm probably going to be doing several a week, but one a webinar, one with you. And each week I'm kind of getting a guest on where we can talk through things as well.
Neat. Oh, I like it. That's awesome.
What about you?
Ours are always fun, but yes, there's always more information out there. All right, we do have a question. All right.
Good.
The question is, in working with my child who is 5 years old, how often should I stop and allow for a brain break?
Pretty often. They can only attend for one. There are several formulas that can be used, but I think one of the simplest ones, just to say without showing you something visually, is a child's age times 2 in those early years. And that's probably at the maximum. Brain breaks are really important. The brain breaks do not have to be long. They can be really short. I mean, you can do that head, toes, knees and shoulders, the mix up of I'm saying it backwards because I've taught people that so many times I can't even think of the actual name of it. But it doesn't have to be long. I mean, they can just, and you're getting right back and you're working the same parts of the brain as you were when they were sitting down with the book.
So their age times 2. So if they're 5, then times 2 would be 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There are different formulas. I think that's the simplest one to say verbally, and it's a good one. That's a good benchmark. Yeah.
So I'm certified in ergonomics, and I always tell people, look, the breaks don't have to be big. They can be short. But what you need to do is just take your brain from here and put it over here for a little bit, right? And the best thing is always to move, in my opinion, right? So whether you're doing whatever that game is, or you're just taking it for a walk, but anything to change the environment, change the stimulus, change the input is phenomenal.
Yeah. So, and you can even, if you're working on some skills, I mean, go out in the backyard and play catch while you have them spell words or count or whatever it is you're working on. And that way they're getting movement, you're getting sensory and motor information at the same time that you continue. And that can still be a break, or you could do the work that way in the first place and then just have a break from mama. Maybe mama just needs a hot minute to, you need settling time, and that's okay too. But there are so many fun games. Have them cross the midline as they spell out words, or skywrite, or write them with shaving cream, or, build things with putty, like you said earlier. There are just so many ways to really make it hands-on and involve movement while you're doing it, in addition to doing those brain breaks. Yeah.
So one of the, so I don't do a lot of, I call it rehab, but what I do, so I adjust, and then I'll typically have them do some sort of balancing thing afterwards to try to incorporate the adjustment, right? So change the proprioceptive input. And one of the things I will have them do is do addition, or maybe they'll spell a word for me. Yeah. And it's incredible. They usually oftentimes in the beginning, they'll struggle. Like they can't even count sometimes without interruption. But over time, once you incorporate that sensory motor system in, and they're able to just balance, and then you ask them to do different things like this, it's pretty cool. Like they're like, I couldn't do this last week and I can do this now. And we're like, woo, we celebrate. But yeah, that's a great idea. I like that. So very cool.
Having it integrated like that, where you're working on many systems at the same time is so good. A game that kids love that is so simple is Would You Rather?
Okay.
Like, I'm just going to make something. Would you rather be an astronaut on the moon, or had you rather be a baseball player? Or it can also be unfavorable things, nothing inappropriate, But, right. That really involves critical thinking. And it also helps them kind of get in touch with what their preferences are. And, that sense of self we talk about all the time. Have them generate questions that the whole family answers, or that you answer, not just them answering them. They love that. And you can do things like that while they're walking on a log in the park for the balance, or just as you're doing your walks or getting activity, or tossing the ball. Would you rather? That is a fun game that's cognitive, and then you can get the motor in at the same time.
Perfect. Like, yeah, would you rather have the ability to fly or be invisible? Would you rather? Yeah, stuff like
Yes.
that. Yeah. I was trying to think of the game for a second. I was like, would you rather? I was like, have I ever played this game? I'm getting too old. I don't even remember these games.
You're too busy with your white squirrels.
Yeah. Over there. White squirrel. I think there's 3 of them here. I'm not lying. I think there's 3 of them here.
You got to take a picture.
Or I'm seeing 3 of them, so I don't know. We have 7 people on. Ask more questions. Thank you for that question. That was a great question. I really appreciate that. Let's see. We're already at 35 minutes. Woo, we've been talking here. All right, it's fun. Let's do a win. You have any wins? Any recent wins? You always have wins, Heather. I know that. But do you have any recent wins?
I do. There was a child who came in with really bad digestion, issues with diarrhea, lots of social emotional regulation challenges, really just difficulty learning, attending, could not get potty trained, and just within such a short time, language growth went up, about almost like 2.5 years or something like that, potty trained, the diarrhea is getting better. Yeah. It just takes commitment from us. It takes commitment from the parents and getting the buy-in of the child, finding ways to make it more intrinsically rewarding for them. But that's really exciting because it's not only emotions. It's not just academics. Even we have kids who in a few months mature physically by years. They come in small and kind of without kind of muscle tone and everything, but you get the body brain connection going. I mean, it helps your overall health and welfare, your immune system too. Yeah. What about you? Yeah.
I got a cool little one. I can't remember if I shared this with you. It's just been so crazy the past few weeks. We do have a question though. But let's see. My little one. Okay, so she is 5, picky eater, bedwetting, emotional outbursts, can't pay attention. And so mom's already said, look, her emotional outbursts are much better, which huge win. She's trying different foods, which if you're trying other foods than pizza, chicken or chicken nuggets and wherever else, we're talking wins already.
Yeah.
So huge wins there. And then the bedwetting is started to go away. So really awesome wins. And so I'm super excited for her. All right. So 2 questions, Heather.
Okay.
First one, what ideas do you have for balancing screen time when there are so many lessons online lately with schools being closed? Phenomenal question. We do have another question after that. So let's dive deep.
Well, if they have to do the school online, that's one thing. If they're giving you ideas, what parts can you print out and find a modification for? And if that's something, feel free to reach out to me at hwells@brainbalance.com if you want kind of help through that. Some kids are submitting the lessons online, but even then, if you can print it out and have them do something sensory with it before you submit it, that's a toughie though. I will say that at least when you're doing schoolwork online, you are not playing video games that are messing with the prefrontal cortex and all of your executive functions and self-regulation. So it's not just screen time. It's also what you're doing on that screen, too, that matters.
Yeah. So sometimes you can pull it off, like meaning, let's just say the screen said 7 + 2 equals. I would have them write 7 + 2 equals, so that there's there's a movement touch feel to it as well. And there's other ways of doing that as well. And then sometimes if it's like a sentence structure, I'll have them write it out as well. It takes a little bit longer, but you're incorporating some of that movement to integrate that stuff. Any thoughts on that, Heather?
Oh, that's exactly where my brain was. You did a better job of saying it than I did. I am huge on any time, whether it's games or school, when you use manipulatives. And this is not just for the little ones. I mean, this goes all the way through high school. I mean, obviously what you do is different, but when you can have them count out blocks rather than just on their fingers, or there are tons of vocabulary games. If you look at the if you're on Dr. Bryan's page and you scroll down to my webinar from Tuesday, I have tons of ideas for working on literacy while you're at home, and it gives you a lot of hands-on, even having words on cards and having them put them together to create affirmations where you're also working on sentence structure. I would do journaling during this time, no matter what. I have to say that every time. But yes, you are working on skills when you do bingo or cards. There's just so many, there are so many really good vocabulary games out there. But yeah, hands-on with proprioception and tactile and fine motor in different ways is really vital, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, so I hope that answered your question there. If it didn't, please ask, or if you need to clarify something, please do. All right, so we have the same mom that asked about the 5-year-old and taking brain breaks. Also asked, having difficulty creating sentences. She can tell me what she wants to say, but struggles to write it out. Any suggestions?
That is surprisingly, again, there's difference between common and normal. Just because something is common does not mean it's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are. I would love if you're comfortable writing in and answering this question about, do you notice any other challenges that might make you suspect visual perception? I mean, do they invade space, or do they seem to think that people are popping up out of nowhere? Are they a space invader? Because one of the primary symptoms or signs, we don't want to treat symptoms, but I'm just giving you things that you could think about that are kind of more tangible. That is an issue with visual perception. But you also, when you are writing, if I am just talking to you, I am mostly using language and I'm using connection, emotional quotient. If I am writing it out, I have to use even more probably working memory, because it takes something longer to write it than it does to say it. And sometimes I can't remember the end of my sentence or the first part of my sentence by the time I get to the end of it. So that can be a working memory. There's a different layer of organization. I have to remember where to put there's so much more to think about. Where do you put the capitals? How big do you write your letters? Are they spaced correctly? Did I remember my commas and my periods? There's such a higher level of executive function to write it out than there is to just say it.
Yeah, she just responded, no space invader tendencies.
And what about the writing itself, the handwriting itself? Is there any, the other thing too is, even when you're writing from a physical standpoint, you have to know how hard to hold the pencil. That's something we don't have to think about. But if I have to think too hard about it because my body awareness isn't where it is, I white knuckle it, or it slips out of my finger, and that's frustrating. Do they write for their age kind of the right size in the margins? Can you tell what the letters are? Do N, H, and R look different when they write them if they know those letters right now? Because proprioception is much more about the space invasion, but it also can be a component of visual. But the visual has to do with taking in the whole piece of paper, not just one little portion of it, sizing, spacing, the visual discrimination to form them correctly, the working memory to what was I writing about again, and remembering all of the details of how to form the letters, where to put the punctuation, how hard to hold the pencil. There's much more involved.
So she says great fine motor skills. So, okay.
So I'm thinking it might be visual and working memory are two of the things that pop in my head. Working memory is one of the earliest signs of literacy challenges, and literacy is not just reading; it's also writing, and that can be a sign of the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex and the symmetrical tonic neck reflex. Blah blah. What that all boils down. Those are big words, but that just boils down to how it can impact visual perception and being able to put thoughts into words. Being able to put thoughts into words is one of the primary symptoms of those two primitive reflexes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it's probably a primitive reflex, ATNR, STNR. Maybe there's another one in there. I'm trying to think of what it is, but those are the first two that I would look at.
If fine motor is fine, you could talk about reading and grasp, but if fine motor skills are really strong, I'm thinking those two crawling reflexes, because those are huge about struggles with writing in all sorts of different ways, but one of the primary ones is putting thoughts into words.
Yeah, she just responded, that makes complete sense. Sounds like working memory. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we have another question. Well, hold on. Let's see. This is a new question. It says, what change was related to bedwetting? We need help with that with our 9-year-old who definitely struggles with attention and self-regulation, etc.
One of the there are several things that relate to bedwetting. One, we're talking about primitive reflexes. So I want to take one step back and just to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about, because that's not a word you hear. We hear it every day because we're nerds, but that's not a normal part of the vocabulary each day. Primitive reflexes are little survival mechanisms that we're born with.
Yes.
So I don't have a way to consciously let you know my wants and needs. I can't say, Mama, I'm hungry, give me a bottle. But I have the rooting reflex, so I'm going to find the source of that food. Or how babies will grasp your finger in their palm. We have multiple primitive reflexes that are supposed to go away. Most of them go away before the age of 1. There's a couple that can stick around till of age 2, 3.5 or so. When those remain, it's pretty much mutually exclusive to have those and an age-appropriate sensory motor system. And a sensory motor system is how we start learning about the world, learn our sense of self, and it leads to cognitive skills. So sensory system is not just the 5 you learn in pre-K kindergarten. It's not just touch, smell, taste, sight, auditory. It's that we also have the interoceptive sensory system. And so I feel when I'm hungry, I feel when I'm full, I know when I have to go to the restroom. One of the primitive reflexes is called the spinal galant. And this is one of the things that really improved in this child. The spinal galant is anything that stimulates the lower back, stimulates the hips as well. And so some of the signs of this are kids who are wiggly squiggly. They don't like sitting in a chair because the chair back stimulates it. Or sometimes they don't get into deep layers of sleep. Even if they look like they're sleeping, it's very tied to the GI system. It's very tied to bedwetting or just having trouble going to the bathroom correctly during the day or night. Sometimes it's one or the other with kids. And so and if your child has any tags, if they're particular about tags or how loose or tight their clothing is or the types of material, they will only wear certain shoes, certain socks. All of those are tied in with spinal galant. It does not mean that your child would have every single symptom. That I'm giving you a bunch to see if anything else resonates. But the spinal galant, there are so many kids who have difficulty with continence, and we take care of the spinal galant, and that issue is gone, and it improves concentration and fidgetiness and everything else.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So the one the kind of the win that I was talking about there too, she definitely had it, like hardcore, like I was like, oh my gosh. So no wonder and so I kind of monitor you can start to see it slowly start to dampen. She doesn't wiggle as much. And she went from bedwetting every night to I think once a week now is where she's at. So mom was excited, but huge victories for her overall, her attention, emotional regulation, all huge things. So all important to that. So that is one of the primary things that you need to look at, whether it be with like sentence structure, writing, bedwetting, attention. You always start with the beginning, which is the primitive reflexes, which, as Heather was saying, are these pre-programs that are installed in the womb. So when you're in mama, those are being in the, they're implanting in there. And so we should have them for a few months after birth, for feeding and other things, but they should dissipate. All of them should be gone after the first year. Some kiddos I've found, do you know of any kiddos? You tend to see them sometimes a little bit later than I do, but have you ever had a really young one who was born without some reflexes? I've had a couple.
I can't think of when that's happened, but that's interesting. But even that is can be a different kind of problem, because like what I don't know what the birth was like, but one of those is to help you get through the birth canal. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Since Brittany sees some of the infants, she's had a couple who did not have like strong reflexes, and I was like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if you had. I mean, I don't know, just out of curiosity. So
Yeah.
All right, these have been amazing questions. Oh, hold on. So the same one about bedwetting and attention. That definitely sounds like her with some of the stuff. Sorry, I'm out of my element. How do we go about getting testing and curing? So what you're going to want to do is you can message me directly. And Heather, how do they get a hold of you?
You can email me at hwells, WELLS, at brainbalance.com. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you and help you through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So reach out to both of us. Mm-hmm. Testing is fairly simple, non-invasive, all that stuff. Heather does, does a lot of testing that very similar, or is also non-invasive, very important. So yeah, reach out to us. If you have more questions, please ask. These have been awesome questions. Did y'all like this? Is this something you like where you can ask us questions rather than us just kind of talking? And
we thought this might be fun to try this today and see if y'all liked it.
Yeah, hopefully you do. There's been fantastic questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the questions.
Also, there are other moms out there and parents out there who have these same questions. So please tag them or share this with them. This is for you. This is the answer questions for you. So I hope this has helped all of you. And if there's another parent out there who could use this, please share this with them. There we go. All right. First time, but I thought it was great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. So helpful. Okay, so they liked it. Okay, so we can do it again. All right. I love it. So maybe we'll jump on again in a week. We'll probably have a topic next week, but then maybe in a few weeks we'll jump on again and y'all can ask some more questions. All right, so watch out. We're going to try, Heather and I are going to try to do this every Friday, especially with the quarantine, since our schedule's loosened up a little bit. Mine's free right now, so I'm happy to be on here with y'all helping. This is my passion. This is Heather's passion, is to serve you and your family. So, all right, anything you want to leave with, Heather? We've been on for 50 minutes.
Really? I thought we would be shorter today. Not that I wanted to be. It went by quickly.
It goes by quick.
It does. I want to give you a different kind of win before we jump off and just encourage you. If y'all are working with your kids, how do we provide structure? We're going stir crazy. These are the challenges I'm having with my child. I can really customize something to help work on filling in the gaps until we can be out in the world again. So just email me just one last time, hwells, WELLS, at brainbalance.com. And I'm just happy to help however I can. And I know Bryan is as well. But
absolutely.
Yeah. But one win I have to say is that we had a research paper come out showing the huge benefits of the sensory motor system on emotional regulation, decreased anxiety, decreased worry, self-esteem. So that really ties in with what we were talking about. And we just got a paper published today, or no, it's already been published, but we're kind of announcing it today in one of the peer-reviewed journals. So that's exciting. I may put that in the comments later if anybody wants to check that out. Just to connect more dots with what we were talking about.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah, please do. Sorry, I was trying to put our emails in there, and then Facebook said that Gmail violates Facebook policies, so it annoyed me for a second. Please put that on there. I would love to read it. Congratulations on that. That is fantastic. I'm excited. So awesome. Yeah, please share that with us. I put your email there, hwells at brainbalance.com.
That's it. Yes.
Perfect. I've seen 100 times. I don't know why I didn't have it correct. Mine is Dallas Synergy Chiropractic at gmail.com, which apparently is a Facebook violation, according to that message right there. So if you have any questions, please email us, comment. We will respond to the comments. But thank you to those who asked questions. We hope this was very helpful. And look for us next Friday sometime. We'll try to put out another announcement and answer more questions for y'all. All right. Awesome win. I love it. Thank you. I'm going to go find white squirrels. I'm going to snap a picture.
You take a picture and text it to me. I want to see that squirrel.
I'll put it in the comments. That way everybody believes me.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much again. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for everything you do. And I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you. And thank everybody so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.